Hello, hello. My name is Cate and welcome to my podcast. It's really lovely that you've come by today, and I hope you enjoy this very exciting interview with the most wonderful Ruby Wax. I was completely privileged to have an opportunity to interview her. She very generously allowed me this interview. I think probably partly in lockdown, some people were more stationary, not on the road, not moving around so much. And Ruby very, very kindly gave me an opportunity to chat with her while she was in lockdown, although she did move around. And I was just really, really interested because she'd written this book. And now for the good news, to the future with love, which was all about how we really can be more connected, fair trade, more equal, work in more sustainable ways, live in community. And she, how can we help refugees? How can we think of others? How can we come together? And she really did go and live, go and visit, go and be with, explore businesses that gave back or were sustainable. And she wrote a whole book of a way of living, of a way of being, which you could call love, you could call connectedness, you could call attunement, you could call eco-sustainable, whatever you like. And it was really very inspiring, and I know that she's now spending a lot of time living in a certain community. And so I was really curious to chat to her about her perspective. I'd seen her shows obviously on telly, and I'd also seen theatre shows, and I know she puts out a lot of mental health programs on mindfulness, and she also helps people with her free mental health resources that she puts out every single day if anybody needs them. And so I was just curious about what her perspective would be on opening the heart, on love, on this connecting. So I hope you enjoy it. I certainly did. She's a brilliant, inspiring person. And here's my interview with Ruby Wax. Hello, welcome everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Ruby.
Hi.
Very exciting to see you. You are
You too, flower woman.
flower, exactly. You're obviously one of the most amazing people that's around, and you've done this incredible book among your many other books. And now for the good news, to the future with love, which it seems to me is a testimony that the war is over. Love is here, and you're announcing it to all of us. I don't know how you feel about that, but with your mental
That's nice. That's nice.
yeah, there seems to be like compassion is here.
I don't think the war is over. I don't think that at all. I've just written a book that you mentioned where I went around for the last 2 years before lockdown to see where people were doing, and I don't mean in a singular way. I mean education, where schools were reinventing the wheel and teaching kids empathy, and also they can have grades too, but empathy and how to cool their little frazzled brains. And then I went to companies like Patagonia in Ventura, not Patagonia, who sell sportswear, and Unilever and Ben and Jerry's. And then I did tech, where you visited tech companies that are really doing stuff to enhance humanity. Now, if we don't focus on those, we can keep going doomsday. But it's our choice to either face that way, or at least know that's there, or keep going, the world's going to end. And if we keep doing that, the world is going
But Ruby, what I was wondering was, is the world as we know it ending? And are these revolutions, are the young, if you like, are they, or maybe not so young, maybe it's all ages, coming? And what you discovered was all these changes are happening. The future's been seeded. It's been seeded for a while, and maybe some of us haven't caught up yet. But you've kind of given us this beautiful book. I love the phone whispering guy, with the kindness movement, and you being in the
end.
hut writing your book, so that you had community while you were writing in your hut. You could pop into a house, and you were just kind of seeding all these ideas, that these possibilities of all of us, instead of being in the dinghy, being in the boat, being in community, being with people. And
Right.
And that's, every
Well,
chapter.
that was the theme that was in every chapter, was, and there literally was a chapter of community, how they're designing in cities and in the countryside and in favelas and in, tribes in Africa where I am now. They're organizing these, making it ecological, helping them with biomass and whatever, from rich to poor to whatever. There's an organization that go in there, but they also train them how to do conflict resolution. So they have to abide by certain rules. There has to be equality, transparency, and fairness or something. And if they don't adhere to that, then it's called a GEN, it's a Global Eco Network. They pull out. So they're changing community by community. And I was staying in one of them in Scotland, which has 600 people living there. It's been going for 60 years. And okay, there's problems. Nothing is utopia. But I worked in the vegetable garden where the money goes to a food bank. I'd never worked with vegetables before. And then they do all that sustainability stuff, because I'm sick of people at dinner parties going, oh, what about the environment? Well, either shut up or learn about it or do something. I just got sick of it. So that's why I went and did stuff with refugees. Stop talking about it. Once once your compassion is ignited, it takes off like wildfire. And these businesses now are also working with groups, always the team. We only care about it. Nobody cares about targets. They care about being liked.
Yeah. And how is that impacting you? Now you've taken those actions, you put the effort in, you went around the world, you went to these places. And I adored the way, you seem to fall in love with every place, as if like you found your belonging, you found your heart. And how has that changed you as a person?
Well, I did go back to live in one of the eco communities for 2 months. I even bought a little property there because I like the people. There's no small talk. Not that they're not funny, but there's no, hey, how you doing? Cocktail party chatter. Everybody's, they're interesting because they ended up there. And they care. What can I say? They care about the community. There's these kind of eco warrior women who are running the gardens, and the pride of it, and the pride of, when they used to have community dinners until COVID, but everybody in the community would bring something if they wanted, and they would eat together. And there were events, they I know this is a little flaky, but they did, not flaky, fluffy, they did solstice. So they would do rituals. Now these people aren't, it's not, some of them are professors, it's the biggest condensation of startups in Europe up there. So they're not behind. It isn't the 60s, it's the future.
You mean
Fintorn.
Yeah.
Fintorn.
So
yeah. I mean, I wrote about it in my book, and I made it very funny because how it was discovered and how it was created is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
But over the years, technology has kicked in, and it's interesting.
So did you feel like, are you saying that Fintorn's somewhere that you felt really at home with the way they were?
I feel like I was with people.
Yes.
It's earthy, there's forests. I started doing cold water, swimming in the North Sea. There's just something about it, the highlands, whatever. I'm not outdoorsy, but you rediscover something out there hiking in the highlands, in that cold water, in the gardens, obsessively learning how to pick tomatoes and weed. I never did these things before, but the people are so, they're alive. I videoed some of them. They're alive. They're excited. There was a geese when I looked out the window, because it's on the ocean. They would fly 60,000 that way and that way every day. They come from Iceland. And there's 2 people that go to the, where the lagoon is, where they land, and they confront the hunters every morning. They've done it for the last 6 years. Every morning they're smiling. They talk to the hunters, and then they know how to, like sheep herding, they know how to make the geese go that way, because the hunters who've been there for 6 years don't kill to eat. They kill to hurt the geese. There's exploding bullets. Just the excitement of watching them fall out of the sky. So of course, those people are going to be interesting who are fighting that.
Yeah.
they don't talk about it, they do it.
Yeah. So in a way, are you saying in a way love is action? Love is a verb.
Yeah, love is action.
And did you feel like, you said you videoed the people and you talk about neural Wi-Fi and mirror neurons and the neurobiology of meeting, how our nervous systems affect each other. Did you feel like you were
Yeah.
opened up with this kindness, with this being around this kind of love?
Well, they calm me, yeah, they calm me down,
Yeah.
not in a kind of passive way, but when
No.
you meet people that speak from the heart and they're, earthed. I mean, there were great people. Some of them were lawyers before, they were done, whatever. They still are because we can work online, but just being with them, I
Yeah.
didn't see a nervous wreck that was looking for the telephone,
Yeah.
the iPhone. Um,
Yeah.
it's not like they don't use it, but they seem to be centered and grounded, whatever that means to you, run with it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's catching. Humans work like neural Wi-Fi. I love that expression. So if somebody's in that state, they pass it to me and I pass it to my neighbor. And so there's a vibe. There's something alive there. And listen, I didn't just write about that. There's communities in London and in the UK,
Yes.
and some of them are free housing that are really attempting to make a community. So you don't have to go over there. You can look, if you look in the book, I give you pointers on where to find it and where to find schools for your kids that won't burn their brains out.
Yes.
So it's a guide. And if you're interested, you can go find it.
It's really, really beautiful, Ruby. It's really, really beautiful. And what would you suggest to people? Sorry,
Hi, you
Ruby. Hi.
froze.
Yeah, sorry about that, Ruby. What would what's so beautiful is you do mention all these different organizations, and I love the love organization where you can buy your Christmas presents to help refugees, for example. So you can actually get engaged already. Like you said, you'll be able to look up in the future, where did my outfit come from? Or in Patagonia, just buy one
Yeah,
t-shirt, buy one
there'll
sweatshirt.
be there'll be apps. Yeah, there'll be apps where that you can tell who's bullshitting and where the stuff came from. And I'm not political, but they're going to get busted soon because that's the next generation. They want to. They said that they what do they say? Giving is the new taking.
Yeah. And also,
Yeah.
so you talked about compassion is a virus. It
Yeah.
grows, it grows, and it grows in people. And so has it made you feel like you want to live in that zone now rather than in the head and the fix it zone? We've been in a fix it culture. We'll
Yeah.
just bring our thoughts to it and then we'll sort it out, which is different, I imagine, to being around heart-centered, grounded people.
Yeah. Well, we live in a real world, and I live in my job is in a real world, but I like it as an alternative. And people say, "How'd you get through COVID?" Well, I have frazzled cafes that I started, and every night, well, then now I do it 3 nights. I go on with about 100 people. It used to be um, real cafes
Yeah.
with small groups,
Yeah.
but now I run 180 to 100 online, and in the day I have hosts. If you want to join in the day, they're smaller groups, and
Oh,
I see about 80 faces, and they're told, do not talk about the news, but give me the weather condition in your mind, and they speak from the heart, and it doesn't matter if they're old or young or what color. You just see about 80 heads going, yeah, that's me too, and
mhm.
that's community. So that was heart through the computer. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah. So do you feel like that's your purpose, is to bring community through? Obviously,
Yeah,
your book is all about community. Yeah, that's your purpose.
yeah.
That's your
I
service.
mean, I've done it in Frazzled. When we get out, I'll do it more. I will. I like being a conduit for bringing people together. I did it in the theater. You played to
That's right.
500 to 1,000. That felt like community, but they weren't talking. Now on Frazzled, I don't do the talking. I just hold it. They do the talking.
So
I
what?
mean, I talk, but I'm not answering questions.
So what's your vision when we're out of this? In terms of community.
I don't know. Nobody does. It might go back to the way it was,
Yeah.
everybody out for themselves. Or maybe some people say, okay, uh, there's new ways to live. And I don't want to live in the old way. We don't know. We don't know.
Also, the other thing is, Ruby, which is really what's so beautiful, is you named so many things, so many places: New York, Brazil, Cape Town. You named so many things that are going on. So there is a worldwide movement, even if it's not necessarily known by everyone. There's a worldwide movement, like you said, with Jen and with these transparent organizations and looking at who's doing what to who. And so how would people start? If somebody's watching you now, what would you suggest to them? How would they start to engage in community in themselves?
Yeah, well, I say go on frazzledcafe.org and come onto one of our meetings so you could see what people look like when they're listening to each other
Yeah.
and when they care and when, you know, they're not distracted because they're on the screen. It's so such a paradox.
Yeah.
But you can look at that and then hope that when we get out that we have meeting places like that.
It's a really beautiful thing,
That's
because
all I can think.
you name this in the book about how education over the era was destructive and abusive, and how children grow their brains through the compassion of their mom. And of course, we've had mums often who have been disassociated or switched off, or different things. So you're talking about bringing that oxytocin and that kindness to people's brains in community now. And so in some ways they can regrow those parts of themselves that just didn't have it maybe when they were young. And that community, that village, can help everyone become who
That's
they are.
very good. Okay, yeah, you said it. I have nothing to add. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's it.
thank you, Ruby. So what I'm wondering is, how does this, you're obviously traveling and spreading the word, and do you find that this impacts your family and how you are? And because you've got children and a husband, and do they
Yeah.
engaged with you with all this?
They kind of get off on it. I mean, they did come and visit me in the community, and I was really scared. They go, "Get out of here! You've lost your mind." But they really loved it. They
Oh,
had to shovel manure. You
oh,
know, they weren't like, this isn't a spa. And
oh,
then they went swimming. They went walking. You know, there's something called Trees for Life. There's another thing called Wild Things where they take, not now, but uh, elderly people and young kids, and they take them into the forest and teach them about ecology and nature.
wow,
So there's activities going on that are really interesting.
wow.
Who is that? Sorry, somebody's
Don't
at
worry.
the
Oh, do you want me to pause?
door. No, just pause. Yes. Hello. Okay.
I'm just resuming. Thank you, Ruby. That's lovely.
Sure.
It's kind of lovely because we're also live, aren't we? We're also, everything's happening all the time.
Everything. Oh, there's real life.
It's
Yeah.
real life, and in a weird way, like we've had this situation with the boundaries, more boundaries. You're not allowed to do this. You can't go there. Wearing masks, and in some ways, this lockdown, more authenticity, because people have to stop and answer the door. People have to say, "Oh, look, this is what's going on for me," or
Well, I think vulnerability is the key, not answering the door, but that's what I love on Frazzled, is that people tell you how they really are, not in a whiny way, but just say it in a couple sentences. Then I understand why you're giving me that look, and I don't have to go, do they hate me? When I just tell me what's going on. And I think in business too, and in schools, it's such a relief to know what's going on so that you don't think it's something you've done.
exactly.
And so, you know, bankers, whatever business, they should learn to speak human, because otherwise the next generation, and I don't trust them. You know, hey, that voice that's like that. You could be an automaton. You could be a robot.
Yeah.
So I need to hear human voices.
Yeah, and these soft skills, I love you called it phone whispering, but and you talked about it mattered, your body language, your tone, your pace, what we would call flirting, soothing, the lullaby, like the mum to the baby,
Yeah.
that soft voice. Stephen Porges talks about
Yeah.
it in polyvagal theory, that low tone, that sweetness, and being aware. Am I smiling? Am I looking? Am I
But
connecting?
if you're aware, what's interesting in community, you don't have to be aware.
Yeah.
We mirror each other. So if somebody's being, listening to you, you will listen back. You know, if I didn't like you, you'd feel it. And so we don't even have to see each other's bodies. We're looking at each other's eyes.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. And so, yeah, this is the thing. Everybody needs a village. And it sounds like you've
Everybody.
and so and this is the thing, we've been under the illusion, which I think has caused a lot of shame for people, that they have to look all right, they have to be all right when they're not okay. And couple shame too, couples thinking they've got to be okay and they can't tell anyone what's actually going on, whereas actually you're talking about everyone can have community.
Yeah. I mean, when you really listen, everybody accepts you. They don't care what you look like,
Yeah,
because you've gone past the boundary.
yeah,
And you don't have to train people. It happens automatically in a community. You know, when we were tribes, the run to the litter was accepted because you needed them.
yeah. That's so interesting, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
suppose the thing is, I'm wondering, you've described so many times in so many ways of what it's like to be an outsider in
Yeah.
so many ways, because you know that, and it takes outsiders to go and look, because insiders, they're not even bothered to look. So it takes outsiders to go and research and go and look and find out. But having done so much and found your people and your tribes and your villages, do you feel more like you're inside now?
Yeah. Well, inside with certain groups, outside with the same ones. Yeah.
Got it. But I suppose you know the difference. You know the difference of what that feels like.
Yeah. I know, move away and don't try to fit in. Even though my instinct is to fit in, I always wanted to fit in because of my background, but I kind of know it's not going to work.
Yeah,
It's not going to work.
yeah,
They're going to see that I'm not interested.
yeah. So that's the thing with you being authentic, you following those.
I have to now, because otherwise I'll bust myself. You know, the police in my brain will go, wait a minute, you're faking it. And of course, sometimes you have to fake it. That's how you make a living.
Yeah,
And that's how you navigate the world. But just as long as you know in your heart where home is, I'm being dramatic. I'm so screwed up as a human, but I have these inklings that that's where I want to go. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not completely screwed up unless I
I,
work on it.
I love it. I love it. Back to Dorothy and the slippers. There is something very magical. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And when you know where home is,
Hmm.
you can return there. Once
Yeah,
you've found your
exactly.
heart, once you've gone inside and you've dug that mud with other people that look at you and listen to you, you have an option. You don't have to be in the other world. You could be, but you don't have to be.
Yeah, yeah, you have an option. Yeah. Some people have, like they had a great home life when they were young, so they carry home inside of them. I didn't have one, so that's why there's this yearning.
And isn't it lovely, because you're not only yearning and finding it, but you're sharing at the same time. So there's something, what's that about for you, that there's a kind of link with finding it for yourself and
Oh,
sharing?
it could be, yeah, it could be because I because I'm slightly a narcissist and I want to show off that I can write about it, or I could do shows about it and write books. And part of it is, I guess, I feel I don't know, want to pay back a little bit. I got a lot of freebies in this world, and breaks. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sort of thank you in a way for giving me a
Yeah.
career.
No, it's really lovely, because in some ways you've written a book about opening the heart and love, but you've worded it in really practical, accessible ways, which people who've got that kind of brain can look up and see
Mm.
that it's real. And what you're doing is little by little by little stepping people towards their heart and listening
Thank you.
and
You're
kindness.
really generous.
You
Yeah,
so
thank you.
well, thank you.
Not just a pretty face.
Aren't you lovely, Ruby? So gorgeous to be with you. Thank you so much, Ruby. Yeah, and
Thank you.
yeah, and what was so delightful is every sentence pretty much was funny, and I was like, you write like you speak, which is obviously, you are a writer. You've been a writer forever, so you know how to do that. You know how to write how you speak.
Well, I'm dyslexic, so that's a big secret. I'm making up sentences, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're funny.
That's great. So that's natural to you.
Mm.
You just
Yeah,
say.
my
You,
language. But I mean, I'm lucky. I'm also not very articulate in some areas because I don't know the words. When I was academic, I couldn't write academic, but I can be funny. So that's,
so in
hey,
a
will
way,
you stay in touch?
I would love to stay in touch. Oh my God, it'd be
Yeah.
oh, you're so lovely.
You know, because of you, I'm meeting embodiment guy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh my goodness. Well, absolutely. We can have a chat if you want. I can give, yeah, I'd love to stay in touch. Oh, exciting. Exciting.
All right.
Well, it's so exciting, Ruby, because you are, because of your awareness how to work with the mainstream, you are transitioning worlds. You're helping worlds to transition. Obviously, there are a few people like you that are helping worlds to transition, but I think that bridge makers are really fascinating, and you're a bridge maker. You know this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're a bridge maker, and you're a channel for love. Now, you probably wouldn't say that. I can say that. You might not. Maybe you would say that. But you're channeling across worlds, which helps community meet. And I find that really fascinating, because we are all connected, but it can seem like we're all so different. And so when someone like you, Ruby, stands up and kind of makes these bridges and says, look, we're all connected, and we've got a heart, and we can.
Look, we just all caught a virus from each other. Come on. Is there more proof?
I know.
Oh, yeah.
World pandemic. I mean, what a way to get us to slow
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. That we're all connected. Exactly. And you know, you go a little bit, don't you? Go a little bit deep, and you find that people are connected, don't you? I mean, I'm sure you found that in Findhorn, that people, there were all these different connections. So yeah, it's the other thing is, Ruby, you know what's amazing? I saw your daughters doing their comedy. Fantastic. On YouTube.
Thank you.
On YouTube. Fabulous. Fabulous.
Oh, good.
So the apple didn't fall far from the tree, did it?
Well, they're more talented.
Oh.
They could do characters and can't. Say their name, siblings, in case anybody looks it up.
Siblings, exactly. Brilliant. So you're really proud of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so brilliant, isn't it? So and of course, you know, so in a way there's an ecosystem with you, with your family. I know you have a monk who lives with you as well. So you've got Findhorn now, but you've also got all these communities that you visited around the world. I think you loved one in New York. You said you might go to New York or something like that. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's another eco village, but that's very snazzy in Ithaca. But Findhorn's closer.
Yes, so that's where you'd go. That's where you would be, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Findhorn.
Yeah, and Ruby, you also run things for people. So you run courses. I know you've been doing stuff for Mind, Body, Spirit, and you've been.
Oh, I'm going to do the Body, Mind, Spirit. If you go on Body, Mind, Spirit.
Mind, Body, Spirit.
In February, I'm going to start teaching mindfulness online. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Because when you did the embodiment conference, you made it so simple. And you made it so lovely. I wonder whether you do a little bit now. Oh,
sorry, 1 sec. Okay. All right. So I'm very practical with the mindfulness. It's about watching those gabbling thoughts and then bringing your focus, which we all have, to a sense. Every time you go to a sense, the gabbling lowers a little bit. Then the thinking takes you up. You pull it back to a sense, and that's sort of a mental sit-up. And gradually, there's a part of your brain that develops that can pull down that stress hormone a little bit easier. But you still have the thoughts. It's just you have a new relationship with the thoughts. You kind of observe them rather than believe them, if you understand what I mean.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. So I remember you talking about, maybe you said Dan Siegel said this about turning, or was it John Kabat-Zinn? You could turn the radio down so you can come back to your body.
Yeah, turn the radio
down. Beautiful. Yeah.
All right. So come away from the seat. Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. So you sit up. I wrote a book, Frazzled, which is how to do mindfulness, eating, standing in a queue, exercising. But since we're on Zoom, we have to sit. But it's the same idea. Always bring the focus to a bodily sense. it won't stay there, but it becomes a new habit. So sitting up, shoulders down if you can, but not rigid, and eyes open or shut. That's up to you. So we send focus as far away from this little machine that keeps gabbling as we can. So see if you can sense where both feet make contact with the ground. So you really try to sense both feet making a footprint if you can. So just feeling your weight down there. And then you just let that image go, let it go, and then take your attention to where you feel yourself making contact with whatever you're sitting on. So you kind of feel the effect of gravity, the imprint your body's making. And then take your focus from there and bring it to sound. Again, it's a sense, a bodily sense. So just listen. From the right, left, front, behind, above, below. Just let the sound come to you. And then you'll notice it has to happen because that's how we're made. Thoughts are going to come in. They have to. You just let them come. But with mindfulness, you notice that you've started to judge the sound, think about tomorrow, fantasize. It doesn't matter what you're thinking. Whatever you think is fine. You've noticed it. So you just gently, without giving yourself a hard time, bring your focus back to listening. It's not a contest. Both states are correct. You notice the thinking, it'll happen 100 times. Bring it back to listening, but with gentleness. And then let go, like you did with the body. Just let that focus go and bring it the same way you're sensing everything to where you feel yourself breathing. You are breathing, so this isn't a trick question. But just see where it's most poignant: nose, throat, chest, abdomen, ribs, and stay there if you can, so the mind doesn't jump. And you just notice, let the breath just do its thing without you trying to control it, because it knows what it's doing. And when the thoughts come, which they will, just bring it back. Really kind to yourself, to the where you felt you were breathing, and just feel the depth, the pace, what happens between the in-breath and the out-breath. Just notice it. Okay, that's all it is.
Beautiful.
You can open your eyes.
So beautiful, Ruby. And it's so lovely. It immediately changes everything, doesn't it? So simply and so wonderfully. Thank you for that. And I know you're putting on a course with the Mind Body Spirit Festival, taking people into the mindfulness. And there's a psychedelic band, and they had a song called Politics Begins in the Kitchen. And I was thinking, there's no coincidence for me that you did your mindfulness training and your community work, and then you've veered a little, not that you're political, but you found out all these amazing groups who are revolutionizing or evolutionizing the world. And it's interesting that you've come from mindfulness and neuroscience into these movements alongside community, because it's based in love, in my world, based in your body. So you're coming, you can read. Yeah, that's so beautiful, so beautiful. And so Ruby, it just seems like you are more and more being in the world. I loved you wrote about the blue team when you were a young person.
Oh yeah.
The community of that, and it seems like there's this idea, you know, the Khalil Gibran idea that pain is the crevice that opens us up to joy. And so the more pain someone has had, the more contraction, in some ways it can lead to the greater expansion. And if you look at your life and what you're opening now, for the rest of us too, you're opening so much and sharing it with the rest of us. So in
Thank
some
you.
ways, does it give you, you know, like the prodigal son, does it give you a sense of kind of redemption, that you had this very, very, very hard beginning and many hard times, harder than many, obviously some may have had harder, but you had some really hard times, and yet you've really reached and stretched to find how to anchor yourself, how to support yourself, and then you're sharing that. Does that give you a sense that there's a healing and a redemption in
No,
your...
the healing is learning mindfulness.
Yeah.
If you catch it, or it's like neuro Wi-Fi, you pass it to the next person. But I don't feel, you know, I'm just glad that Oxford offered it, and I jumped on it. So
Was that a win?
there's another person calling me.
Oh yeah. Do you need to go?
Yeah.
Do you need to go? Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
I'm doing the next one. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's all perfect. Thank you so much, Ruby. And
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you again
In the new year.
in the new year. Bless
Thank you.
So that was the lovely, divine Ruby Wax, heroine or hero of my youth, and someone who's growing, emerging, attuning, evolving, and moving into love and into the heart of life, and sharing what she's finding, you know, bridging between the worlds of the mainstream and the alternative, as she can, as someone in her position can, you know, she can spread this word because she's well known, and she can then share what she's finding with so many. When that's the real gift, isn't it, of someone who's developed a certain level of fame, is that then when they find stuff that's really useful and helpful to the rest of us, they can tell us all about it. So just want to say thank you, Ruby. Thanks for all your heart and love and kindness, and all the humour too. You know, that's such a gift. And you know, it's really funny. She was interviewed by Louis Theroux recently. It's on BBC, Louis's podcast, lovely, on BBC. And what was so magical was, you know, Louis took off and she dropped out and disappeared from telly. And she told him that in her podcast. Like, there was quite a moment in broadcasting, you know. She said, look, you know, you kind of took my slot, mate. And he said, really? Let me chat to my producer. And he did. And so there's now Ruby doing retrospectives and chatting about what she did on telly, and this kind of payback from Louis. And I just thought, wow, it's kind of, you know, we all go around in circles, don't we? And you know, when we lose a bit and we feel like we lose that piece of us, there's always a chance it's not really lost. It comes back, but it comes back when we're in a new place and we have new perspectives. So here's to Ruby. Here's to you. Thanks for listening. Hope you tune in again.